So apart from that plays in maintaining the risk profile, didn't we study something about this risk profiling somewhere else also, sir?
Yes, the chapter 1 is talking about risk profile only again and again.
Oh yeah, many a times we did.
We
Correct,
saw
sir.
it in chapter number 4, that is BCP DRP. Then again in chapter number 1, risk profiling. Because see, what we do is we will prepare a list of all the business processes in our organization. Then we will categorize them into critical business processes and supporting business processes. Then we will identify risks related to those processes. Okay, so we will not just sit in the room and just imagine that these risks can happen. While working, we will come to know that these processes will have these risks, and as per that risks, we will prepare a risk control matrix. Okay, for a specific risk, we will have specific controls. That is basically your risk control matrix that we are seeing in chapter number 6, auditing of information system. Chapter number 4, it was talking about risk profiling. Chapter number 6 was talking about risk control matrix. And chapter number 1 was talking about the entire risk management function. What are the practices, key management practices, key governance practices, and how planning is done. Okay, so what will happen is, as you keep on learning is one concept of a risk, it will keep on developing. In the end, it will never be the case that you are not able to remember the content to write in the exam. Only what you have to remember is the headings should not be different. Word to word, your heading should be correct. Because even if the heading is correct, but the wording is different, they will straight away give 0. Even if the remaining headings are correct. That is how strictly your ISCA papers are checked. This has happened with me. That is why I am repeating it again and again, that don't even change the wordings of the headings. Okay, the attempt in which I got 57 marks, because of one question, I lost that exemption in that attempt. Okay, let's continue. Okay, it is a very complicated. Yes, once again, we will audit the plan and assessment. What we will do is we will go to the employee, we will interview him, we will see whether you are aware that you need a preventive maintenance plan. Do you know what is a risk profile? Do you have a security policy? So we will ask him 3 questions. Does he know what is a preventive maintenance plan? Then the risk profile, then what is the security policy? And then as per that, we will do our control assessment. So that is what you have to do in auditing plan and assessment. Go to the employee, see whether he is aware, ask him 3 questions. Do you have a plan? Do you have a policy? Do you have a profile? Policy, profile, plan. Policy, profile, plan. Okay, is there a lag in recording? What is happening? Then next point is physical inspection. Okay, we are still auditing the plan. Okay, in that we will do physical inspection of these things. These are basically the controls related to environment, water detectors, smoke detectors, location of fire extinguisher, and firefighting equipment. What is firefighting equipment? That gloves and your fire suit and all. Then evacuation plans and fire exits. Okay, it is something we will learn in BCP and DRP. Evacuation plans and fire exits. We will conduct mock drills and all. So we will do physical inspection that we have is installed in our organization. Okay. Now water detectors. Which threat does it control? Water detectors. What kind of damage it will detect?
Water damage.
Water damage. Then smoke detectors.
Fire damage.
Fire damage. Okay, this was easy. After this, we will also do a half-yearly drill. We will identify whether there are any undesirable activities in the organization. What is this undesirable activity? If someone is smoking, or drinking or eating in the information processing facility. That is what we are talking about. Identifying undesirable activity, or he is accessing any device from the washroom. Okay, that can also happen. So we have to identify these undesirable activities. In the policy of the organization, we have acceptable usage of resources and non-acceptable usage of resources. In that non-acceptable, we will identify these undesirable activities. Then the quality of power. Okay. We will see whether we have that electrical surge protectors, stabilizers, power switches, power leads and all, so that we can understand what is the quality of power used by the organization. Then effectiveness of power conditioning equipments. Again, we are talking about the same equipments to stabilize the power spikes. So these are basically the points from the which plan? Yes, can you tell me the name of the plan from the chapter number 4, where we will do mock drills and all?
S plan.
Test plan. Yes, the 4 plans are emergency plan, recovery plan, backup plan, and test plan. Okay, there is a song, emergency plan and recovery plan, backup plan, test plan. So that is why I remembered it. So we will do half yearly fire drill, then identify undesirable activity, quality of power, and effectiveness of power conditioning. Then we will see documentation. Okay, earlier we have already seen the risk profile, then the preventive and maintenance plan, now and security policy. Now we will also see this additional documentation. Audit assessment, whether it has been done in the organization or not, whether it has a system which itself does the assessments, then what is their audit plan. Then interview sheets, we will interview the employees. We will ask them 3 questions. What are the 3 questions? Risk profile, security policy, and preventive and maintenance plan. Then we will ask them questions about their awareness in the questionnaire, and we will do physical inspection. That is basically the inspection chart. Okay. So what they have done is they have divided the audit of environmental controls into 3 parts. First, we will audit the plan and assessment. Then we will do physical inspection, and then we will do documentation. Okay, this documentation will have the points from the above. Okay, so once again, what we will do in audit of environmental controls, first we will audit the plan and assessment. We will go to the employee, we will interview the employee, we will check his awareness regarding preventive and maintenance plan, security policy and risk profile. After that, we will do control assessment. Then after that, we will do physical inspection. Now, what are the points for physical inspection? We will see water detectors, smoke detectors, then water detectors, smoke detectors, then firefighting equipments, then evacuation plans and fire exits. We will also do physical inspection, whether mock drills are done. We will identify undesirable activity. We will see the power, quality of power, and effectiveness of power conditioning equipment. So remember it as drill, undesirable, power, fire, undesirable. And in the end, we will do documentation of the audit plan, interview sheets, questionnaire, and inspection chart. Okay, in this inspection chart, we will have 8 things. What are the 8 things? Once again, water detectors, smoke detectors, then location of fire extinguisher, firefighting equipment, evacuation plans, then half yearly drills, after that power, and undesirable. So we have completed audit of physical access controls and environmental controls. Yes, any questions you have till here? Yes.
Yes, sir. I have a doubt, sir. In the material, it has been given as control activities, control techniques, and audit procedures. Should we write all of these, or only the? How is it, sir? Because we have just
See, what they will do is they will ask controls for either fire damage, water damage, power spikes, or pollution damage. They will not ask all of them. So this one question has 4 questions inside it. Obviously, they will not
no,
ask.
not this one, sir. Not this one.
Yes.
Documentation part I'm talking about.
There are tabular columns, sir.
This part you're saying documentation.
Yes, sir. We have seen the overview of it, which is actually what it contains. But in the tabular column, we have some control activities, control techniques, and audit procedures.
No, that
However,
is part of audit. That is not we are supposed to see in ISCA. Okay, that is the audit part. I think in the further questions it will be covered. But if it is not covered, forget it. Leave it. Okay, it doesn't have any
yes,
relevance. Because we are learning ISCA. Okay, we are not going to learn audit procedures again.
yes, sir.
Okay, so once again, if we are leaving any question or any point, like in the technical exposures, we have one point called subversive threats. Okay, leave it. Whatever we are not covering, leave it. Only if you have time, then just as an improvement or just as some additional thing, you can read them. But it will never be asked in the exam. They will never ask what are the audit procedures. The exam. Even that BCP DRP part, there were some additional points for the headings that I didn't discuss. Just leave them. There is no need to remember them also. Okay, so shall we continue? Because we are starting a new topic here.
Yes, sir.
Now let's see what are cyber frauds. Okay, what are cyber frauds? I was going to show you a video again, but as the audio is not transferable, I will just give an example. There is a person in the IT department. He is going to be fired. So what he will do is he will try to extract maximum information from the organization, and after he leaves the organization, now he knows all the vulnerabilities of the organization. What he will do is he will use those vulnerabilities and use the resources of the organization and commit fraud. That is basically what are cyber frauds. These are the frauds committed using IT. Okay, it is not something that a person does by mistake. It is a deliberate deception. You cannot identify how it was conducted, who conducted it. Okay, that is the level of deception it includes. It will look like an employee of the organization has done it, but it is not actually the employee. It is someone else outside the organization or who was earlier related to the organization. Then unfair or unlawful gain. Okay, whatever happens, it is unfair and unlawful. Just in a matter of seconds, your company can become bankrupt. All the efforts of the company of 10-15 years, it can be gone in just a matter of seconds because of 1 or 2 vulnerabilities. So why we are learning cyber frauds is so that we will have a professional skepticism whenever you are working with IT company. There are always going to be people who are trying to harm the IT companies. They will use various techniques. That is what we are going to learn. Why we are learning this is so that we can be aware and we can make sure or identify that this can happen with the organization. If we know how it happens, then only we can control it. That is why we are learning cyber frauds. Okay, what are the major reasons these cyber frauds happen? Failure of internal control system. Okay, there. Once again, we will prepare a list of activities, then critical activities, supporting activities, then risks and threats attached to them. As per the level of risk, we will install controls. If controls are not there and the perpetrator knows that there are no controls, obviously it is because of the failure of internal control system that the threat agent was able to exploit the vulnerability. So it is the failure of internal control system. Yes, whose responsibility is to design, implement, and maintain the internal control system?
Management.
Okay, management's responsibility. So it is our responsibility to see whether the controls are effective, existent, and continuous. Then failure of risk management function to update risks. Okay, the soldier, he didn't update the risk profile, and because he didn't update the risk profile, it was not communicated to the stakeholders, and that is why the vulnerabilities of the stakeholders were exploited by the threat agent. So the risk, you can understand how much important it is, the work of the risk management function. Then the fraudster is smart. Okay, he identifies the lacuna in internal controls. What he will do is, he will do the sequencing of all the internal controls. He will see the dependency and how the information flows into organization, and he will find out a lacuna. Okay, see, we used to see that internal controls, there is always an inherent risk. You cannot say that risk can be fully eliminated or reduced. So this is the inherent risk we are talking about. That smart fraudster, he will find out a weakness in the internal control and exploit it. So these are the major reasons cyber frauds happen. That is why we are talking about continuously updating them, then continuously communicating the information and all. That is why we saw chapter 1. Now, what are the types of cyber frauds? Now, types on basis of functionality. Pure cyber frauds and cyber enabled frauds. Now, what are pure cyber frauds? You are using your information systems. Using your information systems, you are hacking the servers and the information systems of another organization. Okay, so all of this is happening purely in the cyber world. You are not, additionally, you are not doing anything else. So that is what are pure cyber frauds. Okay, everything is happening in the cyber world. Okay, virtual world or e-commerce world. Then cyber enabled frauds. We will steal the credentials of the person in the, not by cyber space, but actually physically we will steal the credentials, and then after we steal the credentials, we will use IT to conduct frauds. For example, a person has written his banking details somewhere, or he has left the documents somewhere on his desk. The other person will see those banking details. He will use those banking details to transfer amounts from his account to his account. So that is a cyber enabled fraud. That is not a pure cyber fraud. So this is the difference. Pure cyber frauds and cyber enabled frauds. In cyber enabled frauds, you are using IT to commit frauds. In pure cyber frauds, everything is happening in the cyber world. Let's now, we will see what are cyber attacks. First one is phishing. Now, let's take an example. We have a website for our institute called ICAI. For that, you have your courses like Advanced ITT, then GMCS1, GMCS2. You go to the website, you enroll for a batch, you make the payment, and then attend the course. So now I know this procedure. So what I will do is I will prepare a website of my own. It will also be called ICAI. Everything, the format and all, everything will look like it. And after that, what I will do is I will make some changes to the URL so that whenever you search for ICAI or anything, my website will appear first before the original ICAI website. So that is basically what is phishing. What we will do is we will masquerade. What is masquerade? I will wear a mask. It will look like I am the ICAI website, but I am not actually the ICAI website. That is basically what is phishing. what I will do with, using this is I will acquire information like your name, your other details, your credit card details, banking details, passwords, and all. Once I get that, I can do whatever I want with that information. So that is basically phishing. We will masquerade as a trustworthy entity. Okay. ICAI is a trustworthy entity. I will prepare a website like it. The format and color and all, everything will be same. But now the problem here is how to identify whether the website is authenticated or not. It will not ask for OTP and all, and there will be no bank transfers. It will just capture the data. So whenever that happens, immediately call the bank or block your cards the moment that happens. Okay, so that is what is phishing. Now let's see what is network scanning. What we will do is we will scan the network. What are the terminals attached to the server? Then using the IP address of another terminal, we will try to access the server. We are not actually using that terminal, but using the IP address of that terminal, we are accessing the server. So even if I am not the authorized user, using the IP address of an authorized user, I can access the server. That is basically what is network scanning. We will first scan the network. We will identify which terminal is connected to the server, which one is authorized one, and then we will use the IP address of that terminal and access the server. That is what is network scanning. Okay, here you can remember the example of 2611, the terrorist attack. What it did was all the bookings and all, they were done by network scanning. 2611 happened because of network scanning. All the bookings and all, they were done from a terminal. It looked like they were normal people, but they were someone from outside the country. Then virus, malicious code. What is the full form of virus? Does anyone know that? Virus. Yes, have you seen Three Idiots? There is a virus in that.
Yes, I have seen Three Idiots. The sir is called Cyrus.
Okay, so virus is vital information resource under siege. Once again, vital information resource under siege. Siege is SIEZE. That is virus. It is also called as a malicious code. Now you all have antiviruses in your computer. You know why you need antivirus. A virus, whenever you download a file or you access a website, virus attached to it enters your computer. It will either replicate itself or it will slow down the functioning of your computer. So that is what the virus or malicious code does it. After a period of time, if you are not using antivirus software, it will corrupt your software or your local disks so much that you have to actually repair the entire system. It will not happen quickly, but it happens eventually. So it is better to have an antivirus software. So what is virus? It is a malicious code that is attached to the files that you download or the website you access. So that is why our navigation softwares like Google Chrome, Internet Explorers, they have a security control that even only if the website is authenticated or safe, only then it will proceed. So whenever a website is somewhat fishy, it will itself say that this website is not a safe website. Do you want to proceed? Okay, so that is what the navigation software is trying to protect you from such unprotected websites, so that the virus doesn't enter your computers. Then spam. What is spam? Now, you must have received messages like you have won $5 lakh, you have won a Ducati, you have won a bungalow in Dubai. Okay, so that what will happen is they will send this message to the entire population of a city or a country or a state, or like 5 lakh customers and all. After we send these messages, at least 1% of the population or the people to whom this message was communicated, they will try to contact that how can I claim this award money or the Ducati or the bungalow. Then they will ask for your banking details, your other details and all. And once they get these details from the money in your bank account, then they will buy a Ducati and bungalow in Dubai. So that is what happens in spam. A message is sent to a large number of people to gain your details. That is what happens in spam. Then website compromise. Okay, what is website compromise? The fifth and sixth point is the same thing. Okay, website compromise and malware propagation, both are one and the same thing. I should have clubbed them both. Okay, they are the same point. They are not different points. You have to write website compromise and malware propagation. Now what happens here? Now Infosys, everyone knows everything about Infosys. What Infosys said in a public announcement is that our website is the safest website in the entire world. Nobody can hack it and all. So the hackers institutes from different countries, they prepared a group of hackers and they decided to hack the Infosys website. After 2 days, the public announcement was made. What this group of hackers did was they hacked the Infosys website and they displayed obscene images on the website. Okay, they tried to deface the entire website. So after someone if searched on Google Infosys website, it looked like something different. Okay, the website, it had obscene images, obscene content and all. So what you have to say is the website was compromised. It was completely defaced. Now you can understand what was the impact of that on the reputation of the Infosys. Okay, this has happened. So that is why even the IT companies, even if they have controls and all, they don't try to provoke the hackers and all, because we only know the controls to an extent. We don't have an expert system or evolving systems to update ourselves with all the risks. Even if you are using COVID-5, still this can happen. So what is website compromise or malware propagation? Okay. The website will be defaced completely by the hackers. Okay. Unwanted content will be uploaded or displayed on your website. This is a very serious issue out of the above issues. In network scanning, it is a 2611 issue. In this website compromise, it is the Infosys website issue. Spam, you already know. You must have received messages of $5 lakh you have won and all. And then phishing, ICI website, you can remember. We will prepare a duplicate website. Yes. So once again, what are the cyber attacks? ICI website, 2611, Infosys website, $5 lakh message, and virus. Once again, phishing, network scanning, virus, spam, website compromise. They will not tell you to explain all of this. They will tell if it is for 4 marks, you have to mention 4 of them with explanation. If it is for 6 marks, obviously you have to write 6 to 7 points. Then the remaining are cracking. What is cracking? See these softwares that are installed on our computers. Not all softwares, they are as consistent as system software, like MS Word and all. Because they have a lot of experience in the field, you cannot find any weaknesses in them. But if there is any software which is newly launched, what hackers will do is they will find vulnerabilities in the system, in the software, and using those vulnerabilities, it will affect all the applications in the system. So first they will crack one software that is new. They will try to make coding errors. They will do coding manipulations. That is basically what is cracking. Okay, you are cracking the software. Then eavesdropping. What is eavesdropping? Yes, you must have heard this. What is eavesdropping?
Listening to somebody.
Listening over someone,
Yes, if
similar to wiretapping.
yes, if see when your birthday is coming, what you do is you start being more cautious and uh, you know what all planning is being done for my birthday. You'll start listening to conversations and all. Okay, so what you are doing is you are eavesdropping. You are listening to conversations you are not supposed to listen. So that is what is eavesdropping. Then email forgery. What is email forgery? You are working in an organization. A person is supposed to send emails to everyone in the organization. Now one person knows that that person is supposed to send emails. Instead of that, what he will do is he will, in the name of that person, he will create a new email ID which looks like his email ID, and then he will send the emails to all the people in the organization. That is basically email forgery. You are pretending to be someone else and sending emails. It is a bit like phishing. In phishing, what we are doing is we are pretending to be the original website. In email forgery, we are pretending to be a email sender. That is email forgery. Now after that, email threats. What are email threats? What we will do is we will first capture some information about that person. Then we will start blackmailing him that if you don't do as I say, I will leak that information to the public. That is basically if we are doing, we are threatening someone using the email. That is the email threat. For example, uh, Vijay Mallya, what he did was he had a illegal property. He was going to sell that illegal property. A person from the income tax department, he came to know about his agreement and all, which he was doing illegally. Now what he will do is he will send him an email threat that if you don't transfer 50% of the receipts to me, then I will leak this information to the public. Now it is very important for Vijay Mallya to not make another mistake, or he might seriously end up in jail. That is what is the email threat. Here, everything is happening through email. That is why it is called email threat. Then scavenging. What is scavenging? In one of the questions earlier, we saw that the documents, they are going to be shredded. Okay, we are going to put them into shredder, and then we are going to dispose those documents. So what will happen is, if there is a shredding machine, you also have a machine that if something is shredded, it will reconvert those pieces of paper into original document. Okay, so we have both the systems. So what is scavenging is, we will look for deleted records or dumped documents or shredded documents, and we will try to prepare again the original documents. That is basically what is scavenging. We will look for information in the dustbin of the IT organization. So this is also kind of cyber attack. Even if email ID and password or any other credentials are mentioned in any part of a original document, even if they get a half-page document prepared, they can do a cyber attack. So you have to be also careful while dumping the shredded documents. Okay, only shredding will not disable the hackers from making attacks on the organization.
Is it not similar to data leakage?
Yes, that is what I was talking about, data leakage. So data leakage, it is exposure, and scavenging is the attack. Okay. Data leakage is not a threat. Data leakage is a exposure. Scavenging is the actual attack. You will not call the hacker or the intruder as a data leaker, you will call him a scavenger if he's using exposure by data leakage. Okay, have you understood the cyber attacks? Okay, this is the content. They will actually ask for MCQs and all. They will never ask all of them. Okay, now one by one tell me. I will prepare a website like ICA. Which attack I am using?
Phishing.
2611.
Network scanning.
Network scanning. Okay. An Infosys website.
Website compromise.
Website compromise. Then you have won $5 lakh. Congratulations.
Spam.
Spam. Okay. If you don't send me 50% of the proceeds, I will leak this information to public.
Email threats.
Email thread.
So that okay, I will remodify the shredded documents.
Scavenging.
Scan.
Okay, so once again, phishing, network scanning, website compromise, spamming, virus. After that, these are the first 5 you have to remember. Then the next 5, email threats, email forgery, scavenging, cracking, eavesdropping. Okay. Once again, phishing, network scanning, virus, then website compromise or malware propagation, then spamming. After that, email threat, email forgery, scavenging, cracking, eavesdropping. Okay, these are the 10 points. It is not very hard. Okay, it is just a collection of terms, nothing else. Now we will see what are the techniques. Again, the same thing we will repeat. Here we will combine the exposures and attacks both. Okay, this question, it is just a combination of cyber attacks and earlier technical exposures we saw. Now the first one is hacking. Now what happens is, here we have no intention of actually hacking the system, but it happens by mistake. Okay, you hack the system. That is what we call hacking. So what you have to remember is, here our intention is not to hack the system. It happens accidentally. Okay, accidentally a person gets authorized access to the system. It looks like you are hacking the system, but it is not. You don't have any malicious intention. Okay, by mistake you get the authorized access. So what happens here is, you have left your computer, you have password protected it, but you have left it on, so your brother will come or someone will come and use it. So that is basically hacking. Okay, we will continue in 5 minutes. Just take a break of 5 minutes. We will start again with the cyber fraud techniques.